Oh my goodness, you guys, I just finished filming this video. I went to go make sure that everything was all there before I went to edit, and I noticed that my old sling is hanging out. Like, what the heck? This is my sling from when I broke my arm. I have no idea how it ended up hanging out of that drawer, but it did. I'm so sorry about that. I hope it doesn't distract you too much, but love you. Angels, it's Haley Reese, and for today's video I hope you're excited because I'm coming at you guys with a highly requested, highly anticipated Woman in White Part 2. If you're new to my channel and you don't know much about my haunted house or the Woman in White or any of the other spirits that resided in my haunted house, I'm gonna leave a link down below for you to check out my previous Woman in White video. I feel like it's kind of important to understand what type of spirit this is and how wonderful her presence was within this home. I have so many Woman in White stories, and some of them just give you chills in the best way ever, but they're still eerie in the sense that, wow, something is really there and something is really helping my family. But for today's video, I'm just going to share one story, and this story is hands down the most incredible, miracle, mind-blowing, hair-raising story you'll probably ever hear to do with Woman in White, and it has to do with the time that my uncle, at the age of 6 years old, was buried alive in nearly 4 feet of sand and came out unharmed. If you guys want to hear this Woman in White story, definitely just keep on watching. But before we get into the story, I just want to say 2 things. First and foremost, if you are new to my channel and you're not yet subscribed but you do enjoy my videos, please go ahead, click the subscribe button. I post a ton of videos. I would love it if you would join our family, so please do that. And number 2 is I am doing a giveaway. The winner will be announced next week, so check out my 100,000 subscriber video. I'll leave the link to that down below and you can enter the giveaway. On that note as well, I am doing a fan art kind of contest thing. Basically, if you send me in fan art, you have the chance to be featured in a really, really cool project all for and about you guys. It doesn't matter if you're the most talented person ever. It doesn't matter if your creativity doesn't go as far as drawing. If you want to write me things that you think represent the Reese's Pieces or anything of that sort, definitely send it on over to my P.O. box or the email that is being used for the project, and I would love to see your fan art. I look through them all personally and it means the world to me. Honestly, you guys are so wonderful and talented and it's unbelievable. But without further ado, let's get into this video and I can't wait to share with you. So my mom has 2 brothers. I believe I've mentioned this in previous videos. I must have. My mom is the youngest of the 3, so she has a middle sibling and an older sibling, and today's story revolves around her oldest brother, Mike. Now, around this time, they were living in my haunted house, and occurrences with the Woman in White were already happening, and her presence was beginning to become very well known throughout the household. Now, up the street, they were building a new subdivision, and I guess the best way to describe this is, you know when you go to a construction zone or you pass a construction zone and they're digging everything out, there is a huge pile of dirt. Now, at the bottom of this pile of dirt, there was like a ravine, and it was like this cool construction zone, and at this time of day, there was actually no construction taking place, so a lot of the neighborhood kids would go there, play in this little like ravine type area right at the bottom of the big pile of dirt. Now, my Uncle Mike was 6 years old at the time, and he was playing with a little girl named Elaine, who was 10 years old. The really, really awesome thing about this story, you guys, is as much as it's going to sound totally unbelievable by the end of it, I have the actual newspaper clipping right here. My grandma has saved it for all these years. I will put a copy of it right up on the screen nearing the end of the video for you to see for your own selves that this story is very, very true. As much as I know my Reese's Pieces believe me, I feel like sometimes these stories are unbelievable, and to have this like little pinch of proof, it means the world to me. So I hope that you guys enjoy that touch of this story. So Elaine and my Uncle Mike are playing in this area when all of a sudden a sand slide takes place and a massive amount of dirt explodes everywhere. Now Elaine doesn't get trapped in anything, but my Uncle Mike gets buried alive. And so she runs, she tells her dad, who was actually a police officer, and he right away calls 911 and asks for the fire rescue. He goes and bangs on the door of 4 neighbors, and they all grab their shovels and run to the area. Now when they get there, please keep in mind that this wasn't just a small little sandslide. This was a huge sandslide, and none of them had any idea where to start. Now the ambulance, the police, and the firefighters got there supposedly within 2 minutes of the time that they arrived to the area, and they all start going and going and going. And he was rescued within 15 minutes of them arriving to the area. Now this is a tiny 6-year-old boy buried at the bottom of 3.5 feet of dirt and sand for what the fire rescue told my grandma would have had to have been a half an hour, because by the time Elaine ran and got her father, by the time he called the fire rescue, knocked on the door of 4 neighbors, and they grabbed all their shovels and headed down there, that had been about 15 minutes, and by the time he was rescued it was another 15. So my little uncle at the time, 6 years old, was buried alive for half an hour. Every minute in a situation like this that passes is another minute closer to death. And nearing the end of the half an hour time frame, my grandma says that a lot of people were starting to feel hopeless that a tiny 6-year-old boy could survive not only the pressure of the sand on his body, but the lack of oxygen. They're digging and they're digging and they're digging, and he's found. And I guess what had happened was that he had landed in such a way that he was bent into almost what I'm presuming is the fetal position, where his knees and his head were tucked together, and he had created a tiny little air pocket. That within itself would be a miracle, that he even had a pulse and he was even breathing at this time. But although he had a heartbeat and he was breathing, he was completely unconscious, and they were still afraid of what would happen or the damages that could have been done. So they load him into the ambulance and they're rushing him to the hospital, and my grandma and grandpa are following closely behind. My grandma says that right when they pulled him out of the ambulance, he was awake. He seemed to have no injuries, he was coherent, he was comprehensive, and he was completely okay. So that within itself was completely a miracle. Now here is where the woman in white comes in. When Mike was laying in his hospital bed and they're just all completely relieved, in the midst of his days of coming back into things and comprehending what happened, he turns to my grandmother and says, "Tell the woman I say thank you." And that was all he said. He didn't specify that it was the woman in white. He didn't specify that she wore a white dress or anything of those sorts. He just said, "Tell the woman I say thank you." And when my grandma would later pry at him about this, he would not remember it. Now when they're finally home and Mike is safe and sound in his bed, my grandma's getting ready to go to sleep, and she passes down the hallway, and right near the door of Mike's room, she sees the beautiful white dress walking into it. And so that was the moment that my grandma in her heart believes that it wasn't just coincidental the way Mike landed, that it wasn't just a miracle, it was a saving, and that, call her a guardian angel, call her a spirit that's maternal, whatever you want to call her, saved his life. I think this situation really made my grandma realize that there are good things looking out for people. There was no reason that a 6-year-old tiny little boy should have survived for half an hour under 3.5 feet of dirt. To me, that is so unbelievable. I'm going to insert the newspaper clipping right here for you, so take a moment to read that. But I mean, it's just truly remarkable. First of all, it's remarkable that within 15 minutes of arriving to the scene, they recovered him. And it's remarkable that only within 15 minutes, Elaine was able to get to her father, get them all gathered up, get the rescue team going, and get back to Mike. I can't even begin to imagine the sheer terror that my grandparents must have felt in that moment, but I also can't even begin to comprehend how blessed and thankful and appreciative to whatever it was that saved Mike's life that day. I just think that this is such a beautiful story, and you guys wanted a woman in white update. I even asked you on Twitter, and I was talking with my grandma and I was telling her, you know, which stories do I tell? Because I honestly have so many, you guys. And she was like, you should tell the one about Mike. And I thought to myself, that's gonna be so unbelievable. Like, it's such a crazy story. And she goes, I think I have the newspaper clipping. And she goes rummaging through this one box, and within about 10 minutes, she finds the clipping. So I have it physically here. I don't know if you can see it, but it says 6-year-old rescued after caught in slide. And I have the physical cutout of this newspaper and I can't believe it, because I feel like it just shows you guys that miracles happen and there are good spirits out there. Well, you guys, that is it for today's video. I know it's a little bit shorter, but I felt this story deserved its own video. If you want to hear some more Women in White stories, please go ahead, leave a comment down below, let me know what you want to see. This channel is my stories and my experiences and my ideas, but it's completely for you guys. So never ever hesitate to ask for a request of something you want to see or something you want to hear or anything of those sorts. It means the world to me when you do, and I just love you guys so much. Oh my goodness. With that being said, like I always conclude with, if you did enjoy today's video, please go ahead, click the subscribe button. I post a ton of videos. I don't want you to miss when I upload. And please give this video a big thumbs up. Also, I want to say a huge thank you to Zoe, who actually is a Reese's Pieces and created my new outro. She's working on an intro for me right now, so that is the sweetest. But thank you. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness. And until next time, love you.